please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Fire evacuation. In case of a fire, there's two ways to exit the chambers. To my left, go through the door, double doors, then take another left, go out, or you can exit toward the rear of the chambers. In either case, walk as far distance from the building to be safe. And roll call, please, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, Madam Chair. Terrence Lynch.
Here.
Linda DeGray.
Here.
John Petronella is here. Francis Salimo.
Here.
Joseph Muley.
Here.
Kenneth Helinski.
Here.
Vincent Grillo.
Here.
Christian D'Antonio.
Here.
And Walter Crizel.
Here.
Okay. Approval of minutes for October 24th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments, changes, corrections? All right. All in favor? Say aye. Approval of November 12th, special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any corrections, changes? No? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We did receive a town attorney's report in our packet for the previous meeting that we had canceled. Hold on, it's here somewhere. I know I have it somewhere. But, no, I got it. I do have it, honest. I do have it. Okay. Okay. Zoning enforcement officer is here tonight. Hi. What would you like to tell us?
Unfortunately, business is booming. So, but there's constant complaints coming in, and another citation's been issued. We're having issues with the citations themselves, hearings in which someone will either not show for a hearing, or they show for a hearing and they're fined, but the fines are not paid. So we're going to try to do something to address those matters. There's probably 6 or 7 of them in that condition right now, that situation.
Okay.
And, but the complaints are consistently coming in on a weekly basis.
Okay. All right.
I'll have a
And you-
report for you next meeting if you'd like.
All right. Okay. Walter?
I don't know if it's appropriate now, but Johnson Memorial Center, that rear access,
I've placed a call. I'm waiting for a call back. They haven't started the demolition on the old building.
yeah, I don't, yeah.
They were using the rear entrance and exit for the construction phase, but I've already received a couple complaints, so I put a call in today to the,
That's what I got, somebody
manager,
complained to
yep.
me, so.
try to address that, to put the chain back up until they start the construction phase again.
And anybody else have a question? My question is, you're going to be here to the end?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Well, yes, at least.
I was planning on retiring next week, but maybe not.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
He may retire by 7:30.
Okay, at this time, we're opening up for public participation. Anyone in the audience who'd like to come before us and speak on anything that's not on the agenda, or any open matters? Anyone? Marianne? Name and address?
Mary Ann Turner, 7 Meadow Road. I brought a little packet that I'm going to leave with the planning officers so they can make copies for all of you. I came in front of you weeks ago about Pheasant Hill. and all of you need a very strong education. So I kind of chuckle at the zoning enforcement officer's comment because I think he's talking about me. I don't take that in a bad way. When you were asked a few weeks ago, and we can talk about it because it's already been voted on, to expand a property so they could put a larger deck on, you didn't think about the fact that they don't own the property. It makes a big difference. It's not your house. It's an exclusive use area. It butts up to a land trust or a buffer, okay? None of those things are subdivisionable. Guess that's a new word. So, and during that meeting, I tried to explain to you that this has been going on for me for 32 years. Not because I've ever come in front of this board to ask you to give me anything that wasn't in the regulations or the conditions that you guys, this board, had put up on this property when they built it. So in the last few weeks, there was a 50-foot buffer. And over time, a commission they came in front of the commission. They complained that they only had a 35-foot exclusive use area. So the commission said, we're going to be nice again. And they gave them 25 feet at a 50-foot buffer. So we'll let you expand up there, but don't stay out of that 25 feet. And when they came in front of this commission to build that development, this commission had said, you don't have to take down the natural buffer. We'll let you keep it. I tried to explain to them what a natural buffer is. Briars, bittersweet, grapevines, poison ivy, and all that fun stuff that a buffer gives you, those roses. But no, the commission said that. So what do you think has happened over 32 years? The buffer gets cut. Well, now the buffer's become a dumping ground. How do I know? Because it's behind my house. So I'm asking you, come on out. Come visit me. I'll make coffee. You don't even need to leave my backyard because I can show it to you. The zoning enforcement officer has been out numerous times now. They went through and they cut the pine trees that are part of a landscape plan that this commission has told them that they cannot cut, but they've cut them. And then they had to go and rub my nose in it and put the boughs against the fence in my backyard that are now over 6 feet high. This weekend, they decided to blow their leaves into the buffer. And I have that on video. And the zoning enforcement officer got to enjoy that little bad piece of video because I'm a very bad videographer. The frustration for me, and it has been, is that what's it going to take to just enforce your rules? That's all. You have conditions on this property. You guys get someone in front of you, and that very nice lady, if you remember her, she was a nurse. Her mom had passed away, and she wanted to put on a deck. She wanted to expand it. And one of the comments that was made is that she was very nice. I am very nice. I need you all to remember that. I am very nice, too. And when the gal said, I don't know why she hates us so much, it is not personal to me. I want you to follow the rules. So some of the things that I'm going to leave here is that we talk about one that's pretty important. In the event of any type of maintenance in the 25-foot area, the unit owner must inform the board, that's their board, and then contact the town for their inspection. You guys. That's in this document I'm going to give you from to all the homeowners of Pheasant Hill, because this board had put things into perspective and said, this is what we're willing to do. They talk about sheds. One shed, 10 by 10, certain type, in a certain spot. Why is there 2 behind my house? Because they don't follow rules. There's a land trust. They're documented. And my favorite line, any unit owner violating any of the above amendments shall be fined a $100 for each violation. That's not you. That's them. So when you're talking about giving cease and desist and violating them, and you're not getting your money, here's a strong piece of advice. Lien the property. That usually gets somebody to pay attention, especially when they try to sell it, if they don't know. I've also put in here the special use permit that this board agreed to, and I've given it talks about exactly the rules. I'm not asking you to do anything else. I am not asking you to change anything. I am asking you to enforce what this board has said for 32 years. And when this group comes in front of you and maybe whines a little, maybe there's a tear that comes across their face, you all need to be sitting there and saying, we hear you, but these are the rules. Thank you. And because I don't know what I can do to keep coming, I'm pretty sure there's at least 7 chairmen that are sitting in heaven or in Florida who are sitting there, she's back. Because Pheasant Hill is what got me involved in politics a long, long time ago. And now I'm here to educate you folks. And I'm hoping if they come back to see you again, if anything at all, take the time to read the file. If you don't have it, I'll be happy to make you copies of mine, because I have it, okay? I'm asking you, please. The last thing is, Creek School. Yes, they're also my neighbor. I'm sorry, I just have too much time on my hands, I guess. So they have an issue because when they built the Creek School, they put a football field in. They are not allowed to have lighting on it, okay? I've got to find the documents, I'm working on it. But the last couple weeks ago, they had 14 portable lights blasting into the field, which also happens to be on the north side of our neighborhood, which I forwarded those to the zoning enforcement officer. It lights up our neighborhood like Bradley Field. Please understand, again, this board put things into perspective when these folks came in to build. I am not asking you to do anything except what was on the original conditions and the original plans. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. So as these things come to you, you'll be seeing me. Or you'll take care of it and you won't. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else in the public? Anyone else for the last time? Okay, I'm gonna close public participation. I will entertain a motion to move new public hearing up to
Item 9.
item 9.
So moved, Mrs. Chairman.
I guess Terrence and,
Move number
Okay.
14 to number 9.
all right, thank you. Bond release, Ms. Secretary?
Yes. Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission hereby approves the release of a real estate bond in the amount of $290.40 for project SBR number 1908 located at 210 Mooney Road, Top Knot LLC, owner applicant.
Second.
And before we go any further, staff on this 210 Moody Road?
Yes, that was the addition that was approved a couple years ago. It was completed. Everything, the silt fencing has been removed that was installed during the construction phase, and the plantings have all been installed.
Okay. Any questions, concerns? All right. Roll call, please.
Yeah, Linda DeGray,
4.
Frank Alamo,
4.
Kenneth Delansky,
4.
Vincent Grillo,
4.
Joseph Muley,
4.
Terrence Lynch,
4.
and John Petronella is 4.
Okay.
7-0.
All right. Next is PH 3108ZA. Take your time. For an application for text amendment for Thompsonville. So, before you read that. Oh, no, go right ahead. I'm sorry.
Legal notice, yeah.
Read the legal notice.
The Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing at the regular meeting of Thursday, November 21st, 2024. I'm sorry. I'll start again. The Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing at the regular meeting of Thursday, November 21st, 2024, at 7 p.m. in the Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, concerning the following applications. Public hearing number 3108ZA, application of Honeycomb Real Estate Partners and Grava Properties to amend portions of Section 8.120 Thompsonville District as it relates to the TD zone.
Okay.
Madam
Yeah.
Clerk, if you don't mind, I just want to tell you that you have a copy of the TD4 zone, both in planometrics and aerial photograph, just so you know which zone we're talking about. So it's TD4 in Thompsonville, yep. Just to refresh your memories.
Get that one. I only got one. Yeah.
Oh, well, you said you had
I don't have the aerial shot.
I got a map.
I got a
We
map.
have both.
All right, we can share.
She handed them out before I told her what they were. So,
Okay.
There you go. You got one.
I got this. I just need the aerial. Thank you.
So everybody got the apples.
Right.
That's
Thank you.
You got this one,
I
and
need, yeah.
this one.
Thank you.
I'm glad I said something.
Okay, you want to give, before the applicant starts, would you like to give us a little summary of what's going on, please?
Yes. So this is an application for a text amendment to amend the Thompsonville sections under section 8.120 and 8.129 in the zoning regulations. Just a quick synopsis of my memo for the public tonight. We all know Thompsonville has a long and significant standing history within the town of Enfield, with its first zoning regulations appearing in the early editions of the zoning regulations in 1960s. After the decline of the industrial era, Thompsonville decreased in population, economic viability, and quality of life, and it has been compromised. So the regulations became stricter throughout time, thus resulting in 5 distinct districts within Thompsonville that have their own uses and requirements in each district. According to the recently adopted POCD, the town should invest in this area of Thompsonville to increase investment, infrastructure, and community connectivity. The applicant is here before you tonight, Honeycomb Real Estate Partners and Grava Properties, who have submitted a text amendment requesting to amend specific sections within this regulation. The applicant owns 33 North River Street, approximately 3.24 acres, and is eventually proposing a future high-quality housing development along that section of roadway. The applicant's narrative addresses the benefits of the future train station project and how this provides increased walkability to areas of downtown Thompsonville. They mention the benefit of cleaning up contamination in this location, increasing the area's economic viability, and increasing access to the Connecticut River waterfront. So, currently, the existing zoning regulations under Section 8.120 do not spotlight this area in Thompsonville along North and South River Street in terms of future beneficial developments in retrospect to the Connecticut River waterfront, the incoming train station, and density. So the proposed wording within the existing application has been stamped with the town clerk's office as required by statute for text amendments, and the applicant has completed all public hearing requirements per our regulations and is ready for commission discussion and action. And then just to keep in mind, PZC must make a finding that the proposed text changes are in line with the town's POCD when making a motion for approval, and must also state a effective date and time. Thank you.
Welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
Sure. I'm Steve Caprio with Honeycomb Real Estate Partners, and I live at 311 Garden Street in Weathersfield, Connecticut.
What POCD?
And I'm Greg Vaca of Grava Properties. I live at 83 Stoner Drive in West Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay, explain to us, because you're on TV, why you're here.
I'm from Grava Properties. Steve here from Honeycomb Real Estate. We formed a joint venture to develop the waterfront here in Thompsonville into a vibrant, transit-oriented development mixed-use project. So we've been coming, to this area looking for this type of opportunity for several years. We put the site under contract earlier this year. And we've really been developing a plan, which we presented to the town council, to really make good on the plan of conservation development. So one of the first things we did was read through the zoning. We read your plan of conservation development. And in order to deliver on those objectives, we have designed a project that was just outside of the zoning in terms of heights, in terms of other characteristics, to be able to site a viable project. Now, this district, its topography is interesting. It drops off towards the Connecticut River. So part of the project is really to conform what was already in the regulations to this type of typography. So, for example, if you look at the height restriction, given how the site slopes, you could only do a very short building on this waterfront. When I say short, I mean, several floors shorter than the Bigelow buildings, for example. What we're proposing is still shorter than those buildings today in terms of massing, a much smaller massing. But really, it's to get to a volume of project that's viable as a market rate managed project, which in this first phase is about 164 apartments. We plan on extending it to the Eversource site for a similar volume of apartments. That will be a second phase that will be developed once that part of the project moves on. But it's really to create something that is very respectful of the history. So if you've seen the rendering, it has brick. It's meant to look like an industrial, sort of a modern industrial building in terms of its volume and its form, and really take advantage of and activate the waterfront. So, part of our project is to create a running trail and park that's open to the public along the waterfront, and on the other side to really regularize North River Street, which today, is 16 feet wide. For most of it, does not function as a proper street. To really make that just a typical street in form, and really to minimize sort of additional asphalt there by incorporating some of our parking into this new street. So I know that's for a plan approval that we'll come back to present, but really in trying to accomplish all of this, we did note elements of the zoning that would not allow for that, this kind of a development. In this case, it's an 80-20 development, so 80% market rate, 20% workforce housing. And, to have that sort of a volume, you need to make certain adjustments. So I'll turn it over to Steve Caprio, who will go through the adjustments that we're requesting.
Thank you, guys. I also want to thank the commission for having us tonight, and really want to thank Lori and Georgie. We've worked very collaboratively with the town. I think our goals and the town's goals align well. We've, as Greg said, concentrated on the plan of conservation and development, and really want to activate this part of town. We did not participate, however, we came to the presentation on the charrette, and I participated with Aaron on a couple other things involved in the area. And one of the key things that came out of that, although the report's not done, is that this is a critical piece in Thompsonville. The train station is directly adjacent, and this is going to serve as a catalyst for what Thompsonville can be. So the zoning that we're seeking and that we've discussed with Georgie and Lori, the changes in the text amendments that we'd like to see, they're really to, in a way, make sure that this development can happen and make sure it can happen in the right way. I'll go through the various changes. If you've seen the document, what I did was you'll see the original section, then you'll see a section below it that's circled in red with the red text as for the changes that we're seeking here tonight. So I'll start going through it. I'm happy to answer questions as we go through. So just stop me if you want to talk about anything, or we can take questions at the end as well. All right, so starting with the first, which is table 8.121, lot and bulk requirements. What we are seeking here is a change from the 45 feet in height to 65 feet, and then a footnote added that says building height on North River Street shall be measured from the top of curve of North River Street to the highest point on the building, excluding an elevator housing, a mechanical housing, a roof stairway entrance, a ventilation fan, a skylight, a steeple, a chimney, a smokestack, a firewall, a parapet wall, a flagpole, or a similar device not structurally existential to the building. The reason behind this request, as Greg kind of alluded to, this does not change the building department and how they measure the height of the building. What this does, however, is allow us to build the height in relation and massing to Bigelow Commons, and allows the building to be measured from the front instead of right now it's an average around the outside of the building. And with the drop off in height, it would drastically reduce the front height of the building from North River Street. So that is why we are seeking that, and it's going to put it contextually and in regards to massing, kind of online with Bigelow, and really consistent with the regulations, which in the various districts, they want continuity, they want massing, they want the areas to look appropriate. This being a former mill structure, it really fits in the context of historical Thompsonville.
So, any questions right there? Because I do have one.
Yes, absolutely.
I always have questions.
No
so,
problem.
So, you're asking for us to just say 5 or 6 story building is what your plan is, I'm guessing.
It's actually only 4 stories.
It's only 4?
Yes, it's
Okay.
4-story residential. A little taller height on the first story to really give us that true market rate housing, higher ceilings on the first floor with the amenity spaces, but it's truly 4 stories. It just gives us the ability to have the massing look appropriate. It also takes into account that, there's going to be, where the last apartment ends, the building still goes up so that you get that nice kind of contextual
Right, you're
facade
going
in
to
the
have to have a
front.
parapet
Yes,
covering all of your
correct.
HVAC stuff, so. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why the 65 feet was the
Okay.
ask there.
John?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Getting on that parapet wall, so you're asking for a change to an overall height of, is it 65 foot, 8 inches? Is that what that is? And that would not include the parapet wall. Now, the parapet wall is usually the outside wall of a building, so that's kind of the issue that I have. Usually the building height would be measured where? At the eave, at the edge of the building, or the eave, and because the parapet wall can go up 2 feet, 4 feet, or whatever you deem necessary. And I just want to clarify that and make sure that everybody understands that. That's my interpretation of it. And the fact that it does not also include other things such as, the chimneys, steeples, smokestacks, and so forth. I don't know if we want to consider capping what could be a height on those things so that they're not unlimited. Because you have, stairway entrance could be, 8 feet tall, above and beyond that. Elevator housing's usually about 4 foot extends above the roof lines and so forth, but steeples and so forth. So I don't know if it's something that we may want to consider, or just, want to make sure that we all are aware of that. Again, you're talking about a 4-story building, but you're looking at amending that change to be 65 feet, which will include other, the 4 stories at whatever, they're 12 feet per story or somewhere thereabouts, or 10 feet, plus roof pitch or roof peaks and so forth?
It will be a flat roof. The first floor is probably looking more like 12 to 13, maybe 14 feet. And then after that, we're usually around 10 to 11 feet. Inside the units, we're really only looking at 9-foot ceilings. So floors 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
So to clarify on the parapets too, definitely understand your point. One of it is we're not in the center of the building. The architects are still kind of working out what that feature is going to look like. We discussed, does the center go up higher? Is there a clock? Is there some sort of feature that folks are going to see as they come by on the train? But definitely understand if you want to cap the heights there, because I can understand not wanting to see, a 30-foot skyscraper off top of the
Sure.
building. So that totally makes sense.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Terrence?
Just a question, the way the land slopes, and you're saying 65 feet from the curb height. So, okay, you're saying 4 stories on the front building, but I'm assuming that behind that, there's more buildings? how high are those going to be? And are you still taking that, so you could have 4 stories right at the curb, and you could have 5 stories down the road a little bit, down back? Is that the plan, or is the plan to make it all 4 stories and they'll all just slope the same way the land does?
So it'll be 4 stories. Those 4 stories will sit on a podium. Under that podium, it's covered parking. In order to get the parking that we needed on the site to really attract tenants, we did have to park a majority, about half the parking is under the building. Out the back of the building, you're going to come out level onto a terrace. That terrace is going to be raised to increase the views of the river, and then it'll drop off slightly out the back down to the Riverwalk, which will still be raised considerably. Probably it's about 15 feet high off the riverbank to provide views and walking trails and things like that.
Okay, so if I go and I stand on North River Street and I'm looking straight across, the buildings are all going to be about the same height?
All 4 stories.
Yep.
Okay. Thank
If
you.
you're looking at it from the back, given the topography, you would see part of the lower level. Underneath those 4 stories, that house is the.
Yeah,
the-
I understand that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ken?
Yes, I'm wondering if the motivation behind the height change isn't the fact that you need to have 174 apartments to make the investment realistic, okay? So in other words, if you didn't have that extra 20 feet, you would have to put in less apartments, okay? So do you know what your cutoff point is for investment, number of apartments?
We've actually limited it. We had 5 stories at one point. We've actually
Okay.
taken it down. The building right now is not to the 65 feet. The 65 feet was just to make sure we didn't have to come back if we needed to raise it for whatever reason. The grades are challenging out there.
So what is the height of the building right now?
I believe, I'm gonna get misquoted, is it
55?
between
All
55
right,
and
so
58?
it's still over our 45-foot limit?
Yes,
Right.
oh, yes,
Yeah,
it is,
okay,
definitely.
Okay. But, yeah, so the question is, it sounds like if you don't get the height change, you can't put in enough apartments to make it a viable investment. Am I right?
Oh, from the 45 feet? The way it is
From the
today,
45 feet.
45 feet would mean it would be a 3-story building at max.
Okay.
And then 3-story building would mean it wouldn't be economical to do an elevator, and then you're in a situation which you wouldn't have market rate housing like this.
Okay. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, John.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. One other question. I just want to verify, probably to staff, but are we talking the frontage is measured on North River Street, not the water side or the river? Because I thought I remember when you get to the lake districts, I think the frontages are the lake sides, correct?
It's North River Street.
So it's North River Street. Okay, I just wanted to verify that. Thank you.
And then
It's straightforward. The frontage is on the street, not the water.
Anyone? Go ahead. Frank?
I'd just like to dovetail off what Commissioner Alinsky was saying. I think, we've had discussions about this kind of thing happening, and I'm glad you're here and you're investing in Thompsonville, and welcome to Enfield. And we actually talked about that the developer or architects or the experts are going to need to know how high they have to go and able to make it viable and able to make a profit. So I think that's where we're at with these, because it's new to us, but if you can't make money, you're not going to build it. So I think that the height should be, we need to be educated on them. For me, you can go as high as you want. I don't care, but I think that's an important component in order to have the building go up, that you need enough height in order that parking underneath, I imagine, is very expensive. You get pillars holding that up, and that's a big investment there. So you need the units up there to make the money. And I understand that perfectly, and I think that's the way we should approach these. Thank you.
You're welcome. And just to give a little more detail, and then I'll get a little bit in the weeds on kind of the cost factor. This is a contaminated site. There's a lot of soil work to be done, and because of the amount of fill that was placed on the site when the buildings were taken down, the structural system that we have to use is extremely expensive. So taking a floor off would really make it not a feasible project, because anybody to build there has to put this very complicated structural system in.
Walter?
Just 2 points. Commissioner Petronella, it's 65 feet and the 8 is a footnote. It's not 8 inches. So just clarify that, though. It's 65 feet. And so is the plan to shift, and again, this probably is too early to talk about, is it a plan to shift the road nearer the railroad and then build, like where the old casket building was, that will be the road, and then?
Well, so this is the site that this is a larger district than the site that we have under control.
Yeah.
The site we have in control is 3.25 acres of this district.
Yeah.
So it's north of the casket building site.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right.
but yes, that is, so when you think of this, you can think of it as 3 zones. And, when you look at this map, it's very linear, right? It's very long north to south and narrow east to west. So when you think of 3 zones, we have a river zone, too low to build, and you'd want to build a park there. You then have the building zone, and then you have the street / the parking zone.
Okay. All right.
Now, our plan is to shift the street over slightly so that the street can run in the middle of a double-loaded corridor of parking that serves the building.
Gotcha.
If we didn't do that, then we would have the street, then a double-loaded corridor of parking, and then the building would have to be very close to the river, and that's not viable. So the only way to fit the parking required is to have a double-loaded corridor on a new street and the rest underneath the building, which double-loaded corridor is 64 feet wide, the building's 64 feet wide, so it lines up well. It would be more expensive. It is very expensive. It would be more expensive, but for the contour shift that we talked about. It goes down, and so it's at grade in the back almost, whereas it's underground in the front.
Very familiar with the site, so.
Okay.
All right.
I have another question.
Go ahead.
What are the dimensions, length and width of the property, approximately? Do you know?
That's a good question.
I was looking for them and I couldn't find them, so
It's like 800
Yeah,
feet long.
it is long. It's over
yeah,
700
I can
feet
tell.
long.
I've got the
200.
satellite view up here. I can see it's very long and
2
narrow.
by 8, 2 by 9, something like that. 200 by 800 or so.
200 by 800, approximately. Yeah, I don't need
Yeah,
that.
approximately. I mean,
I was just curious. Okay, thank you.
Okay, are all the questions about height? Okay, let's move on, sorry.
All right. Next one. Section 8.121.1 notes, and it's table 8.121. It is 3.I. Unenclosed front porch steps may project an additional 5 feet, provided that neither the steps nor the porch may be closer than 5 feet to a front property line. We are asking to add in also 2 feet from the property line on Main Street and North River Street. And then I'm going to read the next one and then give kind of the reasoning behind it. The next change we were asking was for freestanding canopies attached to the building may be erected forward of the front building line, but in no case shall freestanding canopies be erected closer than 10 feet to the front property line, 2 feet in TD4 zone. The reason behind this one is mainly surrounded on Main Street. In order to keep the feel of Main Street, as you go up Main Street, you'll notice, property lines are basically on the public right of way on the sidewalk. We want to make sure that if we have the ability to develop something at basically Main and North River, that we have the ability to continue Main Street. What we don't want to do is have that building stepped all the way back and not consistent with the rest of Main Street. So that is the reasoning behind that request.
Okay, any questions? You answered my questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Chair.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is maybe less for the applicant, more for the staff. I mean, is there any way we can? Is there any way we can make this more universal to Thompsonville instead of kind of to try to be a little less like site specific? I mean, especially considering like the urban feel of Thompsonville, where it's pretty normal to, I mean, basically have 0-foot setbacks, on like Main Street, the old style Main Street. I mean, we're not even talking building setbacks, we're talking projections. So I'm wondering if there's any potential to kind of make this a little less site specific, a little less TD4 specific. I don't know if that ever came up. And that's, again, more for staff than for the applicant.
Madam, if you don't mind, Madam Chair.
Go right ahead.
So one of the things we really wanted you to realize, and that's why I printed these out, there's very few properties in TD4. The TD4 is the Levitt's property, the Eversource property, and the Cogtella property, and just south of the boat launch, or including the boat launch. So there really is hardly any actually opportunity to develop except for the Eversource and the Levitt's property, which is what they're talking about. I'm sure you're all familiar with what the Levitt's property is. So the reason that this seems very site-specific is because it truly is, because the TD4 has very limited but valuable opportunity to develop. So that's why they're trying to fit this into an area that we really want to turn into a small village district within our Thompsonville Village District, because this is where it's going to happen. I mean, this is where, train station, this is where any like nightlife or breweries or anything like that has a chance to occur. So they're just trying to make make these changes so they can build what I believe the town would like to see. So that's why it is very site specific.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, moving on.
All right, the next changes are in the use table for Thompsonville districts. And you will notice in various areas, you'll just see a little red S added in. So I'll go through those for what we're requesting to have changed to allowing site plan approval for. The first being business/professional office. The next one was kind of a clarification. It wasn't super clear if 5+ unit residential was an apartment building, so we had added a line that said apartment development greater than 5 units. See, Lori had made some notes too, so it could also be 5+ unit residential equal dwelling units, but we had added an apartment development greater than 5 units, requesting just site plan approval for that in this district. Retail stores, 2,000 gross square feet to 20,000 gross square feet. We're requesting site plan approval. Animal grooming, site plan approval. Personal services and veterinary office, which is not a hospital, it's just a vet office. Requesting site plan approval for both of those to be added to TD4. As we said, the first phase of our plan development is strictly residential. This would mainly be focused on the Eversource parcel to allow something to occur on Main Street and to bring retail to that area at the corner of Main and North River. So not really for the Levitt property, but more for Eversource.
Question, and so your plan, and correct me if I'm wrong, is your initial construction will just be the apartment complex. Then you're planning on building more of a commercial area in addition to this? Or is it like this whole thing all happening at once? I guess that's my
That's a
question.
good question.
So the idea here and our plan is a 2-phased project. The first phase of which we already have under control, the second phase of which we're still working on. The first phase, purely residential, because it doesn't really abut an active public street to be able to have retail. But, we're planning for the future here and thinking as we move down towards Main Street on the second phase, that would be an appropriate and, in fact, we think a very attractive destination restaurant on the waterfront location within a mixed-use complex. The other uses that Steve was citing are some of them somewhat like service ancillary uses to a large residential use, like, the veterinarian.
All right, no, that was the question is, first you're building the residential, then the commercial.
Right.
So
Right,
I just
exactly.
needed to understand that. All right, thank you. Okay, let's move on.
All right, the next is section 8.122.1, notes to table 8.122. We're requesting a change in number 1 to say all classes of liquor permits as defined by section 8.1.2 shall be permitted. Again, this is thinking ahead. We really see a brewery or some sort of waterfront restaurant as really a destination that's going to pull people in. We're hoping to put a park in front of that, so we see this as really kind of a bookend to downtown, to the Thompsonville district, so that's why that change is requested for this area.
Just one quick thing to staff on footnote 4, family daycare facility. That would have to be corrected to the state regs. If we're gonna do this, we're just talking.
Just a point of clarification. Georgie and I went through all of these regulations and figured out what we probably should do entirely, but they wanted to come in sooner than we were going to get to it.
Okay.
To modify things for
right.
their proposed development.
All right, no, just make
point
that
taken.
note. All right, thank you. Okay. Next one.
The next is section 8.124, parking requirements. The change we're requesting is in number 2. Mixed-use residential buildings or residential buildings with 5 or more dwelling units shall provide 1 parking space per dwelling unit. For example, the parking requirements for the following unit types are as follows. 1 studio equals 1 parking space, 1 bedroom equals 1 parking space, 2 bedroom equals 2 parking spaces, and so on. Lori, I'm not sure if you wanted us to kind of not double speak on that one.
Yeah, so I just brought this up to Steve because I noticed it today as I was rereading this. So it actually says, mixed-use residential buildings or residential buildings with 5 or more dwelling units shall provide 1 parking space per dwelling unit. For example, the parking requirements for the following unit types are as follows. And I think that it should just say, residential buildings with 5 or more dwelling units shall provide parking as follows, and just have the 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
I just think it's a little bit cleaner.
Yeah, and that's totally fine with us.
That's all. It doesn't change the content at all. It just is a little cleaner.
Okay.
And those requirements are already on the books.
I was just gonna add to cover, because that is also state
Yeah.
requirement, so we can't go beyond that. So this is just gonna match the state requirement.
Okay.
Number 1, the bullet point above it, it's not in red, but that's gonna have to get changed too for the future to match state requirement. So I just wanted to clarify that for everybody. They're not asking for anything above and beyond.
Missed that one.
Yeah. Sorry, just to go back to the use table, it's not a question, but I mean, my suggestion, it was mentioned, but I would propose that we don't do a separate line for apartment development. We just add it to the 5+ unit residential. Residential is residential.
That wasn't
From a use perspective, I don't think we should be
We can't do
segregating by ownership type. I mean, if it's a condo, if it's an apartment, 5+ units is 5+ units. So
We can discuss that
Yep.
after, but good point. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Beth? No? All right, moving on.
All right, the next is section 8.125, parking area design standards. In number 2, right now it says no parking space shall be provided within the front setback. We are asking to add in except in TD4 zone. Because of how this parcel and these parcels are situated, with the road directly in front, the river on the backside, to not have parking in our front setback would not make this feasible. As Greg alluded to before, the plan is to actually widen this road. Right now, it's maybe 16 feet wide, maybe. The plan is to shift it further from the tracks to allow parking on the track side and on the building side, and have the road running through to give access to the 4 homes and the parcel that's in the back. I think it's one of Eversource's parcels. So that is the reasoning behind that. If we didn't have parking in that front setback, it would not make things very feasible. And then on Main Street as well, the front setback would be basically like parking off the street wouldn't be allowed, so there'd also be issues over there.
Now, would there, my concern was sidewalks. We require sidewalks when you're, I guess I'm a little confused because I don't know what the plan is. So I'm just concerned about having space for the sidewalk and being able to put some kind of buffer to prevent somebody from accidentally going across the parking lot and into the sidewalk if somebody were to walk on it, and that kind of thing, so.
So we are planning on having sidewalks on the building side of the building. Right now, there's no connection. So we were not planning on putting sidewalks on the train station side, on the train track side, just because they wouldn't go anywhere. And then we are planning on having full striping of the street. We're gonna have the pedestrian crosswalk there. It will be landscaped with, tree islands throughout. So what it's basically gonna deliver is if you were driving through a downtown and, there's parking on either side to go to restaurants or to different housing, that is the look that this street will have.
Okay, all right. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I'm not sure you'll be able to even put sidewalks on the railroad track side. You'll be bumping into Amtrak property there, and they're not very easy to work with.
You are correct.
Okay.
All right, the next one is actually about sidewalks. Section 8.126. Sidewalks and pathways shall connect all parking areas to the larger sidewalk network. Sites shall be laid out to maximize pedestrian connectivity between uses and sites. We are asking to add, in the absence of a larger sidewalk network beyond the site property, sidewalks and pathways shall provide connectivity within the site with the potential to connect to future development or sidewalk network in right-of-way. That's basically saying that we don't connect anywhere right now. We want to make sure we have connections within our own development with the ability to connect out to Main Street
Okay.
when Phase 2 can be completed.
Because we do require people to sidewalk the whole property that they own. And you wouldn't be the first, trust me, we've done it all through town. Sidewalks are huge for us.
Yep, and we are planning on, really our access point for the public, non-residents, we will have the Riverwalk on the riverside that we plan on bringing all the way back out to Main Street to really supply that amenity for the town of Enfield.
All right, as long as you understand, sidewalks are required.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify, this project exists because of the coming train station, and it's oriented towards the train station. So having, a nice landscape sidewalk that brings residences north to south to the train is the key feature of the
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think, if I'm reading this correctly, that's what they're proposing.
Right,
They're
I'm-
proposing sidewalk, and they're
I just
proposing to
wanna
extend
make-
sidewalk.
I don't know where their sidewalks were at this moment, because we don't have the site plan in front of us, so
Yeah,
I'm
but-
just making it very
Yeah,
clear.
it says it right here.
Yep, all right,
Yep.
thank you. Okay,
And then number 3, the site should be served by no more than 2 driveways except in TD4 zone. The no more than 2 driveways, this is to ensure that we're going to be able to have fire access for the various parcels. Certain of these parcels, if we didn't allow more than 2, there is the chance that we wouldn't have the correct access for emergency and for fire. So that is where
okay.
All right, we can flip through a few of these pages now. All right, we're almost to the end. The landscape standards is the last section, section 8.13. There are a few changes we're requesting here. In number 7, a minimum of 1 tree, we are asking to include or shrub shall be provided per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. Trees required in parking areas per section 10.10.7 may contribute to this requirement. This request is surrounded by the size of this building with the size of the parcel. If we were not to have it say tree or shrub, which we are very happy to do, you would be looking at roughly
A forest.
150 trees trying to fit on this parcel. So the tree or shrub was what we were hoping for there.
Okay.
Number 8, where site constraints within Thompsonville District 4 and 5 are prohibitive of meeting the tree planting requirement, the required number of trees shall be provided to the town in the form of minimum 2.5-inch caliber deciduous canopy trees for planting within the public realm in the district area. That we're simply adding to include District 4. That's currently written just for District 5. We've added a few, numbers 9 and 10. Number 9 is where site constraints within TD4 are prohibitive of meeting the parking lot landscaping requirements of 10.10.7.a, the landscape setback area from the right-of-way and parking areas of more than 25 parking spaces shall have a 2-foot minimum setback from the right-of-way. If parking areas are considered on-street parking, then no minimum shall exist. Again, this is in relation to the linear nature of this site, the location to the train tracks, and how we would have to park the site. And number 10, where sites constraints within TD4 are prohibitive of meeting the parking lot landscaping requirement of 10.10.7.b, a reduction to 5% of gross parking area required to be landscaped area can be provided. Furthermore, the requirement of 1 tree per 5 parking spaces shall be reduced to 1 tree per 20 parking spaces and shall be allowed to be located in areas of the site other than the parking area to meet this requirement. Again, this goes back to something that Commissioner Alamo said. With Amtrak, we are not going to be able to put trees close to the tracks. So we are even more limited on where we can place these street trees. So we fully intend to have some street trees where we can and along the front of the building, but we have to be cognizant of that. And then we are also trying to provide views out the back. So, we're not looking to put trees all the way across in the back, really to kind of frame in the property, but to allow those expansive views of this part of the river. And that rounds out our requests of the commission. Happy to take any additional questions that you may have, and thank you guys again.
Commissioners, anyone have any questions? Vin?
Getting back to the trees, if they did the sides and kept the back open that's facing the water, totally understandable. And I would definitely agree with that because that's your selling point, right? We're looking to get working class and so forth in this, correct? So view is huge. And I like this idea, just because of the people you're trying. People want to spend money. That's great. That's great to bring them in. That's what Thompsonville needs. Need people to spend money to have all these nice places. The trees, and I'm a stickler on trees. Watch any meeting. I'm always on that. But they don't have anyone behind them. It's open. If you put the trees where you can, really everywhere you can, I'm okay with, makes sense, to fit. It sounds really nice. And to be honest with you, I would love to see a drawing before I even said any decision on anything, honest. I'd love to see what your plan is. I don't have that. Do I? Or am I mistaken?
So there is no requirement for a zone change, or it's not a zone change, a text amendment to propose anything. They've offered some of the information. It is somewhat proprietary at this point. They don't have any applications before you.
No, I'm not requesting. I just would have loved to have seen the idea.
Yeah.
The layout, it's hard for me to.
It was shown at the town council meeting. I suppose we could have.
And it got into the press. So if you search for the development, you will see the rendering.
Okay, it's out there.
Oh, it's out there.
Okay, that's all. I just, as long as it's out there and I can find it.
Oh, yeah,
If it's out there, I would just like to have seen nothing. It sounds like a great idea. The height, I understand the drop in the back. It's a small area that's right there. I'm not finding too many problems right now with what you're saying, but that's just me. There's a bunch of us up there.
I just think, so just on what Commissioner Grillo was saying, we're going to have many more bites at the apple of this. This is like just a text amendment, and I think, appreciate you guys gave us more information than is even required tonight for a text amendment, so I think we got a good picture of what's going on, but we're going to be seeing you many times down the road. We'll be able to have address a lot of the things that came up tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else before I open it to the public? Christian, You all set? John, you're all set? Okay. Okay, at this time, I'm going to open it up to the public, so I'm going to ask you to take a seat and.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Don't go too far. You'll be back. Okay, anyone in the public like to speak for or against? Karen? Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Karen LaPlante, 166 North Maple Street, and these are my comments, my personal comments. I didn't form an official statement, so I'm going to be winging it tonight.
It's okay.
The first, and I don't know if it's an issue or not, but I looked on the land records and I didn't see that these people did own this property. They may have an option on it or whatever, but it was listed in the staff report that they were the owners that were applying for the text change. I'd just like to clarify that a little bit. I'd also like to mention the conservation zone in your regulations, 8.50.3 or 0.503, I think. I don't know if it's maybe it is 0.3. That's the overlay zone over the Connecticut River area, and I believe it's still on the zoning map. So I think those rules are still in existence, whether the state requires it or not. North River Street was accepted by the first selectman as a valid street in 1922. So this is not a private road. So it is a public road. So anything you keep hearing about it being a private road, it is false. You can look it up in the town records. All right. So I think you have to remember, you have to look at the whole zone, okay? When you're making this zone change, it's going to affect the whole zone. That means everything along Main Street and North River Street and part of South River Street. So you may think it's only affecting this one site, but it's not. If Eversource decides to do something with their property other than this, anything you do here is going to make that change universal in that zone. My problem with the table 8.121, the lot and bulk requirements, it doesn't list the dwelling unit floor area as the original table does show. I don't know if they're eliminating it or if you don't have unit dwelling.
I can help you with that.
Yep.
But go ahead.
Yep, you can respond later. The notation number 8, I'm sorry, not number 8, but the notation at the bottom for the building height on North River Street shall be measured from the top of the curb of North River Street. If that's not spot zoning or site-specific zoning, I don't know what is, and I thought spot zoning was not allowed. And where's the top of the curb on North River Street? Does that also work on Main Street? Does that elevation work on Main Street? And then if you're going to go 65 feet high, what's a building 65 foot high in the old Gray's property going to look like? I don't know. You know, or the old Yankee Bait property. That property is all part of that. And the town is, you know, possibly, who knows what the town wants to do with that. They may turn around and sell it to the guy that bought the Yankee Bait property. So we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And with these zoning changes, those things can happen. So everything that you approve here are going to be valid for North and South River Street areas from the boat launch and also along Freshwater. And it doesn't mean the town's not going to get rid of the boat launch and decide to sell it off to a developer. Who knows? There was a footnote on section 8.121.1, number 9. You have number 8 says rear lots are not permitted in any Thompsonville district, but number 9 is also still in the table, and it's not here and it's not on the next page. So I don't know if it just got wiped out or if it's not going to be there, but I don't know what happened to 9. So, and 8, I don't know. The numbering is different than what the existing ones are, so you might want to check that first. Okay. Section 8.121.1, notes to table 8.121. There are changes. Number 3I refers to only pre-existing non-conforming principal structures. So it doesn't do them any good to change it at this point because they don't have a building there. So 4 might make a difference, but I don't see where it's going to do anything for them in 3I. Okay, we spent many hours, and some of you were on here, many of you were not, with the Thompsonville people, the people from Thompsonville, going through these zones, and what are we going to put in them? I have a nice color one. It's a lot easier to see.
Me too.
Okay? And those that were there, remember there were a lot of people from North and South River Street. There were some people there from Prospect Street and different areas of Thompsonville. And I also have a property in Thompsonville. So I wanted to make sure, you know, my property wasn't going to be adversely affected. The reason we chose the uses in TD4 was because we want to accentuate the riverfront, not the need for housing, which if you look at the allowed uses in housing, it's TD 2, 3, 2 and 3, okay? Those are where the housing was going to be. Not necessarily in 4 or 1 or 5. 5 was going to be the business district. You know, 2 and 3 were going to be the housing areas. And TD4, if I can refresh the description of TD4, the purpose of Thompsonville District 4 is to allow a variety of housing, food services, lodging, minor retail, and marine waterfront activities. And that was what we were pushing, the marine water activities, in direct proximity to the planned rail station adjacent to the Connecticut River and freshwater. The housing, the food services, and or any kind of lodging, we were talking a mixed-use building, maybe something simple as some kind of amphitheater where people could sit there and just watch the river, or something where they could enjoy the river. Now, we talk about views. We have a beautiful view over to Suffield. There's a couple nice big houses over there. It's a nice wooded area. It looks beautiful. Looking out on the river, everybody loves it. What is Suffield going to be seeing? That's not the right attitude. I'm sorry. You know, I don't think it's fair to our neighbors to have this possibly very large apartment building in there. We also suggested in TD4 that special permits with a public hearing would be required. You can see under SP, under almost all of the uses that are in the table. And that's why we did it. We wanted to be able to control carefully, make sure it was going to be carefully developed, be environmentally sensitive to the Connecticut River, and include the proper facilities for the general public of the town of Enfield and others that would come to visit and would enjoy this one major environmental peaceful place, not to a select few. So I think that we should change that to special permits. We also discussed, I believe, the retail stores, 2,000 gross square feet to 20,000 gross square feet, and we said no, not in that area, because it's not big enough to handle a store that big. So that's why we allowed the smaller retail stores. I don't have a problem with the animal grooming or the personal services or a veterinary's office. But as you can see, still, most of those things still require a site plan, or the special permit, rather. I don't know why we couldn't come up with different abbreviations. Site plan, I always think of SP when I get it wrong. All classes of liquor, whatever, people are going to drink. In the parking requirements, mixed-use residential buildings or residential buildings with 5 or more dwelling units. I know we're talking, this is going to be a residential structure, but a mixed-use building, if it was going to be built, how many are going to be required for the mixed-use part of it, the business side of it, for the businesses? There's nothing there that tells us how many parking spaces you should allow for the commercial spaces. And it doesn't say it up top either. So how would you rule on it if it came to you? You don't have anything in there that says it. So, bars and restaurants, you're going to allow a big full liquor bar. How much adequate parking is allowed there? I'll tell you, if it's a good bar, it's going to be crowded. Look at Joey's Pub. And we know what problem that caused. I don't know if the justification was good enough on the driveways, except in the TD4 zone, not allowing more than two driveways for the TD. And again, they were talking it being they were hinting that it was a private road, which it is not. So they're going to have to do whatever they need to do to figure that out. And I think the sidewalk should be there also, so that you can get to the trains or whatever, because those people are going to want to walk there. Whether they're going to be walking through a parking lot or what, I don't know. And you're not supposed to be basing your decision on a zone text change on something that's going to be built. You're supposed to be doing it on the complete zone. Landscape standards. So we recently had a DPRAT meetings down here in the Skidco room, and more trees were one of the things that was discussed. And here, the first project that comes up before you, well, we can't do the trees. We don't have enough room. So they're going to tear down 3.5 acres of trees, a whole tree lot, and now they're talking they're going to be 1 tree or shrub per 1,000 square feet of gross area. Now, a shrub, really? And the planting of trees would require a minimum number of trees. And number 10, I think where it says where site constraints within TD4 are prohibitive of meeting parking lot landscaping requirements, blah, blah, blah. A reduction to 5% of the gross parking area required to be landscape requirements, to be landscape area can be provided. I think this sentence coming up should read, furthermore, the requirement of 1 tree per 5 parking spaces shall be allowed to be located in areas of the site other than the parking area to meet this requirement. I don't think it should be 1 and 5. I don't think it should, yes, I think it should be it should stay 1 to 5, 1 tree to 5 parking spaces. And if they can't fit them on their property, they should put them on other TD4 zone properties, either in the right-of-way or if it's town property, on town property. But we should stick with the 1 to 5 trees, 1 tree per 5 parking spaces. The Conservation Commission got a grant a couple years ago when the town manager agreed to let us go for a grant, and we got grants to plant a bunch of trees over on High Street and Central Ave and so forth. It's a tree graveyard. There's, the trees that are in town, they're dying, they're in bad shape, they're not here. So we need trees in Thompsonville for just cooling the area for people. So don't cut back on the trees, please. I'm disappointed this property may be developed. We had, Conservation Commission had tried to keep it as open space. Obviously, other people seem to think differently. I don't see where they have millions of dollars invested in the neighborhood. We already had one apartment complex that was approved for transit-oriented development. I don't know why that is or isn't going to be built. That's not our problem, but those are where they should be building them, in those other zones that are already allowing that. So I think the Connecticut River area is a pristine, should be a pristine site, and we should take care of it. And we should keep it available for all residents. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Anyone else in the audience would like to speak for or against? Anyone else? Seeing no one coming forward, come back. And Karen, to answer your dwelling unit floor, we had to take it out by law. So, okay. All right, and
So just to address some of those questions, and thank you for the comments. So first, in regards to North River Street, I mean, no one disputes that there is a North River Street that is a town street. The question, the issue is that it ends where this site begins. So this site's boundaries clearly go to the tracks, right? We have found some information that has shown some rights to pass adjacent to the tracks north and south along the site, but it is clearly on the private property. So again, yes, there is a North River Street. No, it does not, as a town street, extend across the property. Okay. In terms of TD4 and housing, I would say it's clearly, even as was spoken here, it is a key feature of this zone to have housing, right? And so, you know, that is what we are developing here. And I think we can talk about the Levitt site, which we have, which is, again, on it's one side, the other side is the tracks. It's one side of a private road that, again, through this process, we're going to have those discussions with the town, what happens to that road at a different, that passage at a different time. But clearly housing is a major part of this. Now, the mixed-use nature, it is not, when you think of mixed use in terms of, retail or commercial, and this site is not, that is not neither desirable nor viable. But to have a retail component, a mixed-use component in that zone is extremely desirable, and the place to have that is on the main street, right? It's funny, they say there's no such thing as a one-sided successful retail that's on just one side of the street. The only one-sided main street in America is actually in Windsor Locks. But you need two sides of a main street to have activity, which is why Main Street at the end there is the appropriate place for that. So we are very pro mixed use. We are mixed use developers, but again, a private street facing a train tracks is not the place to have a retail use. In terms of the environmental sensitivity, I would say there's a lot to say about that. First, this may be a new growth. It may look like a new growth forest there. That is because the heavily contaminated structures that were the power generation facilities there have fallen down and new growth has come in there. But we have to remember this is a heavily contaminated site, which will require a significant, resources and time to remediate, right? Given, the stuff that was burned on site and dumped on site, it's extensive. We have a full remedial action plan we've submitted to the state. So talk about environmental sensitivity. Today it is a private contaminated site. In the future, it will be a cleaned up site where the public actually does have public access to the waterfront. So as beautiful, and I think, the reason we're here, part of the reason we're here is because this is such a beautiful part of the Connecticut River. I think perhaps the most beautiful stretch of the Connecticut River. The shame is that there is no dignified public access to it today. There is a parking lot and boat launch, but there is no park. And, the waterfront there, people may perceive it as public, it is private, and our idea is to turn it into a public resource. So in terms of the stores over 2,000 feet, again, our idea on Main Street, when our development gets to that point, is to have a restaurant. There's no viable full-service restaurant at 2,000 feet, right? So of the full-service restaurant business, and we have these, I've done many of these. I mean, you want at least 3,500 feet. So if you go to any of the restaurants you think of as a full-service restaurant, you have at least 3,500 feet. Now, here, one thing, and we've been inspired by other things along the Connecticut River, some of these restaurants, it's such an attractive place that you want to have an event space, right? And if it has an event space as part of a restaurant that anchors this, a real destination for weddings, for banquets, for what have you, then it would require even more than 4, maybe up to 6,000 square feet. If you think of like some of the places you've been, that is a restaurant with a banquet facility. When we talk about the 3 driveways, and this came up in discussions also with the fire service and other folks, but one way to think of it is when you meet Main Street, you have to have a way in and out of the subgrade parking. That's 2 potential driveways. And if you were to have an event space or something like that, you may need a 3rd loading area. Those are basically a truck comes in, tables and chairs come out. There is that loading feature that you would want hidden from view. You may have a loading area for that in a 3rd driveway on Main Street. Our project that we've presented does not have 3 driveways. It has 2 driveways, one on either side, so you can get in and out of that subgrade parking. So in terms of the trees, I think there's something to think about here, right? So this is an urban site, right? This is a dense mixed use area. And I think the reason why, the key, I've said this before in this very meeting, I would say the number one thing that's attracting us to this area is Thompsonville. Thompsonville, we've heard a lot of folks when we say we're going to Thompsonville, make comments about it. I think Thompsonville is one of the most interesting villages in the state. It's certainly top 5. Maybe I've seen some things that say it's the 6th densest area of the state. And so the density is both desirable, a feature, and in this case, with a train station coming adjacent to it, is one of the only opportunities for development in all of Thompsonville of any scale to support, that investment of the train station. So the density is important. The way I think about trees on a site like this, and obviously on the riverside, we will have landscaping and trees and all that. On the parking side, every tree is a parking space. So when you think about, and this shows the rendering of the project, when you come into it, you'll have large street trees and tree islands, right, to make it an attractive parking area. Every additional tree is one fewer parking space. Every fewer parking space is one fewer home that we can build. So, if this were a different configuration where it's a 50-acre site and you have parking islands and medians and areas for plantings, that would be a different story. Here, it's literally, we're limited to only a single corridor of parking here. And so, we are, Commissioner Grillo said he's a tree guy. We are huge tree people. Here on the parking side, again, given that, the trade-offs between building the homes that, we're here to build or not doing it, for additional street trees, we think that, we will landscape it appropriately, as you see here, and as we've shown in plans to staff. But really, the current regulation, you would have far fewer parking spaces and therefore homes in the development. So I think I've addressed those, unless anyone has additional questions.
Okay. Because we're still in open public hearing. Anybody like to speak or? Go ahead, Walter.
Just a clarification of section 1.8.121.1 notes. You got 1 through 4, and then it says buildings may be built for a common lot. That's supposed to be note 5, and then 6, 7, 8, 9 are the other.
Okay. Yeah, I did make that correction.
Yeah.
Okay, no, we still have to, because it's still open, we still have to ask if there's anybody in the audience who'd like to, one time, come on up, and so Karen, come back on up. So.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I believe you clarified the floor area and the parking based on the Public Act?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay,
So those are dictated by statute.
Right.
So they are what they are
Yep.
required to be.
okay. Go ahead.
So regarding
Name
the.
and address again.
Karen LaPlante, 166 North Maple Street. Regarding the contamination on the site, I don't know how extensive testing they've done here, but I've participated in a number of Source to Sea Connecticut River cleanups, and I've cleaned up the river side of this area, and there's no end to the bottom, I don't believe, because I was picking up china, gears from the factory, probably big metal gears, right on the waterfront of the river. So I believe that contamination goes all the way to the bottom, the flood zone. And I think you're going to have a big problem building this place. And so it'd be nice to get it back into use. The current owners haven't done anything to keep it clean, keep it protected and trespass-free. They haven't seemed to do enough because it's a dumping zone. It's terrible. It's an eyesore. We've tried to buy it, the town, and he just thinks it's worth too much money. And now the town's going to help clean it up for him, just what he wants. So that is not something that, we need to be spending our money on. Thanks.
Anyone else? Name and address for record, please.
Mary Ann Turner, 7 Meadow Road. If you're not supposed to be looking at what the design is, I'm confused on what I'm looking at. It's just a rendering idea?
That's all it is.
Where's the road?
That's
the road.
That, if you don't mind, that is the road. So it's going to be like a main street. The road will go through there and parking will be on either side, just like.
Be like Manchester.
Gotcha. Okay, okay. And one last thing, and I don't know how far along you are, because really I just came here for something else and just got sucked in. Will you be deciding tonight, or are you going to be able to push this off a little bit longer? I just don't know if this is going to be an open or closed
We
this
don't
evening.
know right now.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Gentlemen, you're up again.
Mention the phases. What? Environmental.
About the
Oh, it's been studied.
remediation.
Yes, so the town of Enfield and the current landowner had actually received a brownfield grant approximately 2-3 years ago to do the first environmental study, so the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, and some test borings. When we got the site under contract, we also, DECD allowed us to use the rest of the funds to continue that testing. So we did more environmental borings and structural borings on the site. So the site's been extensively studied. We've also applied to DECD for a brownfield grant in order to help us clean up this site and to allow this development to move forward. Honeycomb Real Estate Partners has actually received 2 brownfield grants in the past 24 months, one of which is 100% complete. The site is clean. That's in West Hartford, Connecticut. The other one in New Haven is about 80% clean. We actually had DECD down to New Haven for a public event about a week ago, and they complimented us on how we basically set out and did what we said we were going to do. They have a lot of awards that go out there. They sit stagnant for 3-4 years with nothing being done. We've taken the awards from award to basically clean site in less than 2 years on both. So that's something that we pride ourselves on doing. And, it's a big thing to be able to take these sites in Connecticut that have been old mills, brownfields that have sat there for years, eyesores in the town has been set up here, and really deliver the town something great, something transformational by this train station that could be a huge jumping off point for Enfield. The town has done a great job getting that train station here, and we want to be able to help complete that piece over here by the riverfront.
Anyone else in the audience? No? Okay. Yep. You don't mind?
I just want to clarify a few things. So the CT River Overlay District I was made aware of this district when I started working here in 2021, when Jen Picascia was our senior assistant planner at the time. She had informed me that we disbanded that overlay zone. So I did a little research project with Sheila Bailey, downtown clerk, just to find those town council minutes and just to verify that we did disband them. And my research did show that town council disbanded the CT River Overlay Zone, so it's no longer a part of our zoning map. And yes, our zoning map does desperately need to be amended. In terms of the comment about the ownership of parcels, the staff report only mentions that the applicant owns their property, which is 33 North River Street. The other properties are Eversource. However, for text amendment, you don't really have a owner with a text amendment. It's always the applicant. And then lastly, the parking isn't missing. It's right below the existing wording and the proposed wording. And for restaurant, we just go back to the normal parking table for restaurant spaces, so they are there.
All right. Public hearing is still open. I don't think they want to come back up, so.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Sure.
Yeah, on the, excuse me, on table 8.121, the asterisk note, building height on North River Street shall be measured from the top of the curb of North River Street. Now, what Ms. LaPlante noted that note would apply to everything in TD4, although this is specific to North River Street. So I'm not sure if that should read building height on parcels located on North River Street. If that makes a little bit more clarification. And also, I guess I'm just not understanding why would we measure that from the top of curb on North River Street? Wouldn't the building height be measured at the base of the building upwards? I'm not sure why the curb.
If I could answer that, the way the zoning is currently written is the same as the building code. When building code does building height, they take the average X number of feet away from the building on all sides. They're going to take the average elevation, and that's going to be your starting point, and then your height goes up from there. Because of the drastic slope on this, it wouldn't ever allow us to get to the building height that was even listed. So even if it was at 45 feet, if you did the building height calculation per the regs currently, we would not be able to build 45 feet on North River Street. It would be much shorter because it's the average of the grade around the building and the final height. So this is just clarifying that we're not taking into account the back slope as building height.
Yeah, no, I guess I understand that. I'm just, again, looking at the overall length of the building. So you would take the height of the curb at what point? At the whole length of the building as to where it is, or at one elevation point? I mean, the building can't match the slope of a road.
Sure. So you would take it from one elevation point at the curb, at the top
Yes.
of the curb.
So where, at what point? The highest point of the road, the lowest point, somewhere in the middle, or you got a building here that looks like it's what, 600 feet long?
Mm-hmm.
So
It's pretty long, yes.
So I'm just trying to understand where do you take it from? And the height can fluctuate. It just, I think it just needs to be defined or clarified.
Sure. Yep.
So, thank you.
Lori?
Per John's, Commissioner Petronella's comment, so their proposal is the building height on North River Street. So that's basically just on North River Street, so that does not include, Mr. Cogtella's parcel and south of there. So right now, it only includes the Eversource property and basically any of the properties on North River Street. So basically from Main Street to the end of North River Street. but it would not include anything south of that.
So just a couple comments. I know we heard some testimony from Mr. Plant, very well articulated. And relative to the trees, I grew up very close to this parcel, and I think most of the parcel was a building, and the trees now grew just, they're like garbage trees. They're like, and it was a huge powerhouse. So I don't think it's really, they're nice trees. And there wasn't a lot of trees there before. Yeah, it's like just swamp maple, I think they call it, swamp maple. And as far as the current T-ville zone, you know, we talked about the current T-ville zone, so that one and the two before, or three, over the last 40 years, none of those zone changes or anything attract any kind of construction. So I'm very interested in your concept and what you're proposing here, because nothing else has worked. The current zone that you heard about tonight that was established several years ago didn't do anything. Obviously, it's not profitable in that sense of zoning. So I think we have something here new, and new is always hard, but I think we have something new for a zone here and something that we haven't been able to see. So I'm for approving this the way it is and looking forward to your application coming forward. I think we have a lot more discretion, and you know, we can again, we have more bites at the apple, and we can get more into the design part of this whole thing. And as far as the road, I've seen deeds that go out to the tracks. I don't believe it's a real town road. I just think the town at one time said, we'll take care of it, we'll plow it, we'll do whatever. Your deed probably goes out to the tracks. I don't know. But I know there's deeds on South River Street that go out to the tracks. So that's a thing you have to deal with the town there. But I think I don't think it's a real town road like other town roads. It may be a town road, but not really. And you guys may be able to talk about that. You don't have to, it's not required, but I've seen some deeds that go out to the railroad tracks. So that will be part of the application, I think. But anyway, I think that I sat on 3 committees trying to redevelop Thompsonville. We've had several studies. Town spent a lot of money on consultants and architects. All those studies are here. If you look at, none of that ever generated any construction in 40 years. The only thing that's been built is the firehouse. The Lamagna Center was built and they already knocked that down. So, I mean, that didn't even last. They knocked it down right away. The Lamagna Center's been up for 30 years. So the firehouse is the only thing that's been built, and it's waiting and ready and equipped for something like this. So good luck to you. I'm for the change, and it's the way it's presented. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One other comment. On the table 8.122, where you're asking for, I guess, a site plan approval on some of these business professional office apartment development greater than 5 units, retail stores, animal grooming, professional services, and veterinary offices. I've got some issues with that. I think that should be actually SP or special permit. I think we'd be doing ourselves and possibly the residents a disservice by not having a special permit or a public hearing for these things. A site plan approval, I believe, does not require public hearing.
No.
So I'm, as proposed, I'm not in favor of that. I think it should be an SP for a special permit. Thank you.
I'm going to agree with that, only because this area has been so depressed, and I'm not wanting, that's probably not the right language I should be using, but it's, people in Thompsonville and in Enfield have been waiting a long time to see something. and I think they need to be heard when something like this comes to us. So I agree with you, Commissioner Petronella, that these should be special permits, only so that the people have a say. And that's a big concern. And I have some problems with this being such a site-specific with the height, saying only for North River Street. That kind of does make it a spot zoning to me. So, correct me, I'm sure I'm wrong on that, but where it continually goes in, you're saying North Main Street, North River Street, just kind of, I think it has to be the whole TD4, not just North River Street. That verbiage would have to be amended. As far as the height, I understand it's a weird shaped, trust me, I've spent a lot of time down there. You don't want to know why. But that is an issue, like, because after you go 65 feet and then you put your parapet, that's going to be around 70 something. I'm guessing. I'm not a builder. So I think we need to have some kind of change to that. It's something that would make me feel a little bit more comfortable. I don't know if anybody else agrees with that.
I'm not sure why we're very concerned about the height. What's the issue?
Because they're saying it's 65 feet. That's not including the parapet.
Right, so,
I need 65 feet. It's either that's the height or it's not.
so
I need to have.
wouldn't that come under when we do the application and see the height of the building? 65 feet?
You're changing the text here,
Right.
Frank. You're not changing
So
the
what,
height of
so
somebody's
what's, so
building.
why are we worried about the height?
I want a definitive answer. That's why. If we're making
good
a
with it.
text change,
I mean, that's your vote, but
Right.
I don't think we should
But-
bother them on the height.
so again, I need to, I think taking out the North River Street, especially when you're asking for a specific zone, it can't just be that one, area. It has to be the whole zone. And we have, possibly, we don't know, someday, somebody might knock down the Grace Club. Who knows? And
That's
who
not
knows
in
what
this
they're gonna
one.
do with that. I don't know. So,
Is that in
you
this
don't
one?
know, and so we're making a text change that's going to affect this whole zone, and we don't know what's going to be coming, who's coming before us. There's a parking lot behind the, I think it's a church now, right here on the corner of North Main, where the Strand used to be, that building right on the corner goes down to North, it continues down North Main. I think it's a church. Or no, is it a church? No.
I'm not sure what you're
There's, all right,
referencing.
where the Strand was, and then there was a building, and now it's a,
There was a church there. It's a
Right.
hair salon now and a couple
Right,
other small
okay.
businesses.
so,
There's a church in
right,
it.
and
yeah.
behind that is an empty lot. Right now, they could,
But that's a different zone.
right, so I'm just saying that it's all part of North Main.
Yeah, but it's a different.
But it's a different zone.
All right, but again,
So-
I don't know what's gonna happen, and things are happening, and people are coming, and people are buying and wanting to develop, so I think we need to have the North River Street taken out, because we don't know what's gonna happen.
So just for clarification, you want the 65 feet to be for the entire zone,
Yes.
not
we're-
just the North River Street? So like the
I agree
boat
with that.
launch?
All
Okay.
TD4.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah,
gonna
that's
do it,
fine.
you've got to do it for the whole zone. You
fine.
can't just specify just this one area. And past this property, there's several houses on North River Street. You know, that they don't get sold, and
So do you want it to read as like building height in TD4 instead of North River Street?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
I'd like just to make a clarification. So would that be from just the top of whatever the curb of the street, the height, whether it's North River or South River or Main Street? I mean, we would be obviously very in favor of that. We have no problem with that.
I can't speak for anybody else on this, but I would like to see it so that it's the whole zone and not just North River Street. Go ahead.
Yeah, and honestly, that's actually how I interpret it. I mean, it says, so, I mean, I agree with you. That's just how I interpreted it. And I took the footnote
Oh,
to
right,
just
yeah.
mean that's how it's measured on that street.
Right, so,
That's what you handed us,
exactly.
The whole zone.
No, so the height would be 65 feet for the whole zone, and
Whole
that's the
zone.
way it's
Okay.
proposed. But the building height will only be measured from top of curb on North River Street, because that's the only area that it's going to be an odd situation.
It's like an extreme.
Because of
or
the
large
drop?
slope.
Right, yeah.
All right, okay.
We're not.
So that's actually how it's written. It
was
would
kind
be
of
65
confusing.
feet for the whole
The way
TD4.
I read it, and that was my interpretation, was it just was North River Street. That's
No.
why I'm questioning that.
So the building height on North River Street shall be measured from the top of the curb, not anywhere else.
Okay.
But
All right.
the building height is already proposed for
So
the entire
that-
TD4.
right. So, help me to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
This little asterisk and building height thing will not appear in the zoning regs,
You mean ultimately?
ultimately. That's what I'm asking.
So, I mean, it depends on how we finalize the format, but that would be the goal.
Okay. All right, as long as I understand it.
Another question.
Go ahead.
On the curb and the slope we're talking about on North River, so this zone goes up Main Street. And we mentioned a couple of the parcels that are involved. On the south side of Main Street, there's also a slope. So we're taking out that top of curb, North River Street. The whole Main Street slopes down to the pond. I mean, I don't know how drastic it is. I know it's pretty steep, but I don't know if that has anything to do with the rest of the zone, because we're talking about the whole zone now.
Yeah, I think we have no problem that footnote comes out and it says, TD4 is measured from top of curb.
Okay.
Because of the slopes. We have no issue with that.
Okay, because I was looking at where the actual Grays Club came up tonight.
Sure.
That's sloped. That's a drop back there.
No, it's a great point by you guys. We would be happy to see it say just measurement taken from top of curb in TD4.
All right.
John?
Yeah, we talked earlier about the putting some sort of a cap on some of the heights on top of the roof, elevator housing, mechanical housing or mechanical equipment, roof stairway entrances, ventilating fans, skylights, steeple, chimney, smokestacks, etc. And you had pretty much acknowledged that you'd be willing to, have some sort of a cap, restriction on that above the roof line. I think that needs to be somewhat resolved or defined as to, what that may or can be. It's got to be, something reasonable to accommodate these types of equipment, but it can't be just left unlimited.
Thank you.
Would that change from mechanical component to mechanical component? Some elevators would have a bigger unit to operate it, and some,
Elevators are usually only about 4 feet above the roof line, but you're talking about mechanical equipment and a stair that may lead
Tower,
to.
yeah.
A stair tower up above, that could be 8 feet or thereabouts.
so how would we figure?
I
Yeah.
don't think it's up for us to.
No, I know, it's
really-
hard to-
I mean,
it's even hard
we
for
can throw a
them.
number on it,
I mean,
but.
commissioners,
Go ahead.
that actually is currently existing in the zoning regs under height exceptions in 3.30.8, and then it includes a sentence that says as determined by the Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission. So you could always add that wording as determined by the Planning and Zoning Commission to this section as well.
That would
I just
help.
want to point out that this is already an existing section. They
Okay.
just copied and pasted.
Yeah.
That would help.
And it also says that not more than 10% of the building can have this. So it's not, it can't
Yeah.
just be
Yeah.
the whole building.
Right.
Okay.
We don't want to
Good
see the
with that.
mechanicals anyway.
All right, thank you. Anything else?
I agree with adding the height requirement. I guess apparently with the structures going above the roof, and I think you've just said that's really already covered by our other regulations. So that's not an issue per se. I like the idea of doing site plan reviews instead of the S's, having the SPs, because I think the public does need to have some kind of input on these things. The other thing, and I know Commissioner D'Antonio, you had some comments early on that I thought were very beneficial to the particular addition too, as well.
Which ones are you referring to?
So you were talking in the beginning, I can't quite remember what they were, but they sounded pretty good to me at the time.
Was it, so section 8.121.1?
Yeah.
Where I had noted, so basically they're adding like very like, I mean, in my opinion, minor additions to kind of exempt Main Street in North, not exempt, but to decrease the reduction, to reduce the unenclosed front porch steps
Oh, okay, yeah.
for Main Street and North River Street. So what I had suggested perhaps is that, like they're saying they want 2 feet instead of 5 feet. And I'm saying, can we make that either for the entire zone or just generally for Thompsonville? So that it doesn't have to be specifically for Main Street and North River Street.
We're just talking about Zone 4 right
Oh,
now.
TD4, right?
TD4.
You're talking TD4 or? all-
One or the other. Well, yeah.
Yeah, we're only talking about TD4.
Yeah, well, yeah, so that note, hold on, is note 3. Hold on.
3I?
So 3, so that corresponds to the front yard requirement in TD 2, 3, and 4. That footnote, that footnote. So if you look at table 8.121, and we're looking for the tiny number 3, that falls under TD 2, 3, 4. Right, so that's what that's a reference to. Right. Right, footnote 3 applies to the table. Is the proposal. Right, so their proposal is to just adjust it for Main Street and North River Street.
We wanted to make it universal for
TD4?
So you're saying is,
Oh, 1 through 5.
So the note applies to 2, 3, and 4.
right,
So I'm saying instead of like being like spot zoney, can we just kind of
Yeah.
make that applicable to everywhere where that footnote applies? So we don't have to say, we just change 5 feet, just cross out 5 and replace it with 2.
okay.
But if it's affecting another zone, we can't do it in this change. We're only talking about TD4.
This is, the
Just
note
for
that
this
he's
zone.
talking about is for all the zones.
Right,
That's,
that's what I'm saying.
Right, well, they're modifying a footnote that applies to all the zones.
right.
So I feel like, I think that's in scope for this application, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
The other, I had
Go
one.
ahead.
The last thing I'd like to say is I think this meets the intent of our POCD, and we all signed up for the POCD and agreed to assist developers in developing the TD zones, and I think this is a perfect example of trying to do that. And we have companies that are interested in doing this and have done a lot of work on it. And I think we ought to endeavor to try to make the types of changes that they can live with if we're going to need to make some changes. And let's get this thing moving because, as Frank says, it's been 40 years.
Right. It's been 40 years.
Thank you. That's the last thing.
All right, anybody else?
Thank you, I agree. Thank you for that, I agree.
Walter?
Well, back to that, the 8.121, where it's that footnote 8, is actually footnote 8 is height exceptions are allowed as per section 3.3.
Yep.
So it's
right
also.
there.
Yeah, that's what Lori said.
Yeah, so
Yep.
just to clarify
It's
that.
already there. Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I just want to touch upon the use table real quick. Because we just had a text amendment recently for the vet offices a couple months ago, and we did site plan review and special permit in certain districts. So are you saying that you'd like a business professional office instead of a site plan review as a special permit?
A business, I'm saying anything that's a new construction would be, this is my personal, anything that's coming in as a new construction in the Thompsonville area, I feel should be a special permit because the people in this area have been waiting so long. I think they have to have a little say. It may not be good, bad, or indifferent, but it's a something. And to take things away from them for something like that, I don't feel is conducive to them. It just feels like they've lost some say in their neighborhood.
Okay.
But a personal business, if it's if the building is built and they come in and they just,
That's
want to
what-
go into that space,
Yep.
that's fine.
Yeah, that's what.
Right.
That's what the use table is
Right.
about.
But to build a new construction of any kind, we have to have the special permit, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay,
if
if
you
you wanna
have
ma-
a vet office and the building is already built, go for it. Put the vet office.
Okay, so, but I believe what you're talking about is something that would be a change for all the zones.
Right.
So that's something that we could discuss when we talk about further changes
Okay.
for the Thompsonville district. This is specifically for the TD4 zone.
Well, the apartment development greater than 5 units, as far as I'm concerned, needs to be a special permit.
Okay.
So, yes.
Yeah, I have a comment on that. On the special permits, weren't we just, well, as we're doing our zoning?
hearing.
Right, on the public, weren't we just doing, when we're doing our zones, our consultant was saying we have too many of those? He's saying, take them away. We have too much. He said, we're way over.
We're not talking
on that.
about that right now. We're
No, but
talking about this.
But we're
right
adding
now.
something that we were just told to take away.
And
that we're
this
being
was not
advised.
here until they put it in.
And then as far as because of the people, I would say probably 80% of the people change every 6 months down there. So I don't know what people you're talking about. I mean, the people that,
Landlords.
the landlords are probably going to be really happy, really happy. But I don't think, you said the people, I would say 80% of the people every 6 months are new. So that's just my opinion. That's my comment.
Again, development
So-
like this, I feel needs to be a special permit. People need to have some kind of input, because it's not just affecting the tenants, it's also affecting the landowners, and they need to have something to say about it.
So, Madam Chair, just for a point of clarification, you would like to see any new construction significant? I don't know whether there's a cutoff or not, but any new construction of a building, you would like to see a special use permit. We could certainly add that in when we discuss the rest of the regulations. However, for purposes of tonight, so just remember that this, assuming the building is already there, a business and professional office, is that a
Site plan.
site plan?
Yeah, she said just the apartment would be.
Okay, so
special
you
permit.
just want to change the apartment to a special use permit?
Yes.
And if anybody else wants to chime in on these as we go through, just for getting through time. Retail stores, 2,000 to 20,000. Do you want to see that as a site plan or a special use permit?
Site plans, the building is there, just.
So if the building is there, okay. Retail stores less than 2,000, actually, they didn't propose to change that, but it was a special permit. We could change that later.
Right.
When we do the rest of the regs. Animal grooming, site plan. And then
Should we be
personal-
voting on all these, or?
We're just talking right now.
Oh, okay.
Personal
No, the Public
services.
hearing is still open, Frank. We can't. vote
Personal
on it.
services
Well,
and
we're making
veterinary.
changes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, changes are being made.
No.
No, there's no
No,
changes
we're
being
just
made.
clarifying that we're
Okay.
not changing things.
Thank you.
Personal service and veterinary offices, site plan.
Plan,
This is if they come in after the fact.
right.
Okay. And I don't believe there were any others in there. So that is okay for now.
Okay.
But what we will do is any new construction will be required to get a special use permit.
Yes.
Okay.
And anything else? Yes.
So Commissioner D'Antonio brought this up. What is the difference between 5+ unit residential and apartment development greater than 5 units?
That's what we've been trying to figure out. That's why we wanted to
Yeah.
clarify it.
So shouldn't we just put site plan under 5+ unit residential and just get rid of this residential apartment development?
Or a special
I
permit.
concur.
Well, I think that we need to clarify it. I think right now, this'll help, that if it's, because it's not required to get a special use permit for 5+, but if it's an apartment development greater than 5, we're just trying to
Yeah,
fix
I
the
don't-
regulations
yeah.
and clarify it. We're going to go through another iteration of this without applicants, because we need to fix some other things within this. So we'll make note that we will change that when we do the ultimate regulations. Because, I mean, we didn't know what the difference was between, 5+, does that mean 100? Does that mean
There's no
6? Do you, like I say, it's like, so it's 5+, so if they're putting in 10 units, it's a site plan approval. But now we're saying if it's an apartment development greater than 5, we're at least clarifying that you need a special use permit for the purposes currently.
When these were drafted, there was no, anyone looking to
yeah.
build.
Yeah.
Do anything.
So we could clarify that when we do our final modifications.
It's working. Any other comments? Any more questions?
So,
Yeah, well, I just wanted to comment. Yeah, I mean, I still think we should just combine those. I mean, the 5+ unit residential is empty in TD4. I don't get why we don't just put a SP there.
I agree with you, however, that's not what the proposal was
So
tonight.
we can't, so it's either like all or nothing? Is that gonna, like, we have to like take this? Like their proposed text changes, so they proposed adding that new line? So
We
that's
actually
kinda-
suggested it because we as staff have no idea is there a cutoff, is there not a cutoff?
But there's no cutoff proposed. It just says greater than 5, which is the same thing as 5+,
Yeah.
right?
We're just clarifying at this point.
I mean,
If it's greater than 5 units, we will either take one out or the other when we do the final revisions. Again, this is specifically for the TD4, so they can move forward with their planned development.
It also comes down to like the style of housing.
Yeah.
Like you'll have a single family home, but it could have 5, 6 units. A single family home can't have more than like probably 10, I'd say, depending on the
Yeah.
size. This is specific for an apartment development. So, and you know, like Lori said, we're going to go through them again and we can make changes, but I wouldn't construe them right now just because it goes by the style of housing.
Yeah, I mean, I think oh, go ahead.
No.
I was gonna say, I mean, I think apartment is defining whether it's rented or owned. So I mean, you can have a apartment within single-family home, or like an apartment within a high-rise building, or it could be a condo within a high-rise building or mid-rise. So I don't.
I believe that we need to do further clarification when we do the final regulations. I concur with you.
I'll have to add something.
I mean,
Okay, yeah,
we're
no, there's
confused
a lot of
by it
confusion.
ourselves. So
Yeah,
that's why we're just like, for now, let's put this in,
That's
and then
fine.
we could even change it afterwards
Okay.
to make it sound better, because right now it's very confusing to everybody in this room, I believe.
Yeah, no, as evident, yeah.
Even clients who come in, it's hard to, because they ask us the same thing too.
Right.
And we've always said that there's nothing like clarifying this. So when the applicant came in for ARTs, we specifically proposed this because at least it said apartment development, just for now, like a temporary help,
So
essentially.
yeah, maybe we'll look at definitions, make sure we
Came
clean
in
up
with
the-
200 apartments next month, would you be like, well,
That's 5
under
plus.
5 plus, would you be happy with that? I think
Yeah, it's 5
we need to
There's
find
a
that happy
point.
medium.
There's
yeah,
a point.
That's fine. But if you don't mind, so okay, so that's not actually the point I wanted to make. I just wanted to make the point as far as site plans versus special permit. So, kind of going to what you were saying, Madam Chair, about we do want to encourage development. So just something to keep in mind is that requiring special permits is an extra onus on applicants. That is a slight dissuasion on development. So site plans are easier for developers because it's all clear and upfront. As long as they meet the requirements, they'll be good to go. So that's dependent on us to have good requirements. So I'm agreeing with your notion that we have to improve, make it easier to develop in Thompsonville. And I just want to clarify that if you do want to make it easier to develop, you have to rely more on site plans and less on special permits. So, and that is in our plan of conservation and development, where we're trying to streamline. It's in both the residential section and the commercial section, where we're trying to streamline the permitting process. And like Frank said, what Don Poland, our consultant, has stressed to us is relevant here, because again, if you want to get more development in, site plans are better.
Okay.
But it's a balance. So I just want to clarify,
I'm just, having had the history of this area and been involved with so many of these things, and people really get passionate who live in this area about what's coming. To have them have something to say is important to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think an interesting thing about this zone is it's almost kind of, we're almost kind of treating it kind of as a continuation of like the TD5 zone, kind of from North Main Street, now down to Main Street, now down to North River. So like it makes sense to kind of be a little more consistent with the TD5 zone, which I think is what we're kind of moving towards here. So I think that's a good thing.
Commissioner Petronella?
Well, I believe getting back to the apartment development size in the 5+ unit residential, I think given the fact that the area has got a lot of large residential multifamily houses, that's probably why that is. And the apartment development is more of a commercial type of development, so I think that's why it's there's two separate things going on there. So Lori's going to look, the staff's going to look into it, so, but I'm sure that's why that is like that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Frank?
I'd like to just say I agree with Commissioner D'Antonio. I think that we should follow our consultant's advice as we're doing our zoning regulations over. He's telling us that now, and we should implement it, of course, going forward. We're looking at something brand new here, and his advice is that's what it is, and I think we should follow his advice.
Okay, before we even entertain a motion to close the public hearing, I want to see if anybody else in the public would like to speak. So, Marianne? Name and address, please.
You got me all excited here. Mary Ann Turner, 7 Meadow Road. I really need to take some time to read this. So I had some questions that came up with the chalk buffers and landscaping next to the people in TD1. Okay, because I believed, I don't have my zoning book in front of me, and that makes me a question. By any chance did I leave it in your office? I can't find it. I think that we passed a rule that said residential to residential no longer gets a buffer. Okay? If that's true, I need you to rethink that, because if we're going to build a 65-foot building next to a residential house, it's going to tower way over them. So there should be some distance so that they get some reprieve from that, or they're going to have a big, gigantic wall looking out the left side of their bedroom windows, right? So it's something to consider about making sure that you take that into consideration, because if our zoning rules are clear that they've now taken out residential to residential buffer zones, you need to rethink that with what you're considering planning if you're going to have that. That's one idea. And and this is just because. Is there any way to take that TD4 and change the nomenclature to something else? So that while you can't spot zone, that I do understand. But if you change that section to something else, then you could be specific to that something else so that you're not affecting, because you're right, the talking about on the freshwater of Main Street where the gray building is, that could be a monstrosity that you could build. So change the zone. You change them all the time. I mean, that's how some of these things happened. So that might be a way to solve some of your problem. I do agree that you need to understand that part about the, hang on. Building height on North River Street shall measure to the top of, and all that you've all discussed. Where the trigger sets for me is the part about the chimneys, the steeples, and all the other stuff. My worry would be exactly what you're thinking, that 65 feet would be one thing, but now all of a sudden you have that differentiation. I know you're talking about it, but I think you really want to make sure you kick that ball home, because if you don't change the TD4 zone to this area of project, you are going to have a very large tallness, right? And you don't want that. You're not going to want that overpowering feeling when you go down Main Street, because remember, we're trying to visualize what we can't see right now. And how many times have we built something where after the fact we stop and look and say, boy, I wish we hadn't done that. So you have to try to close your eyes and think about that stuff. Apartment development needs. I think you need to figure out, again, you've already touched on it, is a definition. It needs to be clear. I think that's a can of worms there. And I know that you've already started working on your regulations, and I think you had already started through your definitions. But this one would definitely need some noodling on what that apartment development needs means. And you'd have to one of the commissioners mentioned it when you talked about we have to have good requirements versus a special permit versus, sorry, I can never remember the difference. Hang one second.
Site plan.
Site plan, thank you, Commissioner. I have already come into you saying 32 years ago I gave you my story. You're absolutely right. You folks could be very clear and sharp on what you're considering you see the future being, but in 5 years you won't be here. 10 years you definitely won't be here. 20 years, no offense, you're all history. And all of a sudden, what you thought you handled and fixed, that board will come in and not have the institutional knowledge. So you have to be extremely careful when you say, the public doesn't, I'm using the wrong words, let's say doesn't have the right to come in and have a voice. You don't want that, because you may not be here, I may not be here, and institutional knowledge will have left you. So I am more leaning on the side of the public having that voice to come in here and question it. Because the world's going to be a very different place in 20 years. And remember, anything you build today is new today, but in 30 years, it's not new anymore, right? It's different. Something happens. So, and those are only the quick things. I do think that I'm confused about the Thompsonville TD4, where it's very clear in the 8.120.4. The purpose is to allow a variety of housing. I have a feeling that the interpretation of the word housing is the issue. Because remember, housing to one person could mean a house, a single-family home on an R33 lot. But someone else will come along and say housing could be 160 apartment units times 2. So there's the question. And when I will bet you the people who sat here to help design these rules or had this conversation with, maybe not you, but a commission, they did not think they needed to be that clear, or didn't think of it, of what they meant by housing in a TD4. I mean, again, you could build a lodging, you could build a what do you call it, a hotel. That thing could become a hotel, because that's what it says. And in hotels, they could easily have 300-400 rooms in them, right? So it's a little. I think this is exciting. I think you got a great opportunity to do something really exciting, to bring in something really it's going to make its mark. But take the time if you can. I don't know how much pressure you're under for this, but I think you have opportunities, but I think you need a little bit more noodling time on some of the stuff you want to change so it doesn't affect long term. Anyway, that's just off the top of my head. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have one.
Anyone else in the audience? God?
Yeah, we don't define housing.
Yeah.
Just to touch on that, Karen LaPlante, 166 North Maple Street. If you read TD5, the second sentence is, development in this zone shall include a mixture of retail, restaurant, services, office space, and residences that will serve local residences and future rail commuters. So that was the wording that was chosen to tell you those are the places. TD5 is where we wanted the major commuters to reside. And the major commuters are going to be those people that are living in these brand new 400-500 apartment complexes. So that's why that was chosen there. And the housing, the variety of housing, was because there are single, 2-family, 3-family houses along North and South River Street now. And those kind of buildings would be compatible with and single-family residences in that zone with whatever else is there. That's why it was called a variety of housing. I believe that's my recollection. Thanks.
Okay. Anyone? Sorry.
Well, point of clarification, there are no buffer requirements in Thompsonville.
Okay,
Right.
Thank you.
That's what Mary Ann Turner, 7 Meadow Road. That's what I was figuring. So it's something you should consider. But keep one thing in mind with housing. Someone could come along and buy every single one of those houses on both sides of North and South Street, whatever it's called, right? And tear them all down. There's nothing is forever. Right? But nothing is forever. So with that being
They're right.
So it's not just this spot. It could go all the way down in either direction. So I'm just saying to you, these rules can get a little mucky.
Madam Chair, TD4 is a very small zone. There's very few houses that are there, and it's their choice if they want to sell out and tear down their houses. at any point, anywhere in town.
Okay.
So it's very limited development in this zone. And housing is not defined, we just checked it in our zoning regulations, but it said 5+ dwelling units. So if you want, we could take out the apartment houses and you could just say 5+ and call it whatever it is. It's 5+. We were trying to clarify it. We will need to further define these.
Okay, any more questions, comments before I entertain a motion to, I don't know, if you want to close this or continue it?
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes. Okay, roll call?
Yes,
This is just to close the hearing.
Close the hearing.
Linda DeGray,
For,
Frank Alamo,
4.
Kenneth Alinsky,
4.
Vinnie Grillo,
4.
Joseph Muley,
4.
Terrence Lynch, 4, and John Petronellis, 4.
okay, I do want you, the people that did speak, to understand that this is just a first pass. We will be revising all of these again after this hearing, so, all right. All right, discussion. Go ahead.
I think the way we ought to proceed is to try to get this approved tonight with the various modifications that we recommended. For example, the site plan reviews. I think there was a comment about.
Excuse me, Mr. Alinsky, is your mic on?
Oh, it is, yeah. I think there were several modifications we wanted to make. I think we ought to list those modifications.
I have a list of 2 that you've changed so far.
Okay, what were the 2?
The footnote under the lot and bulk table for building height to add at the ending of the paragraph, as determined by the Enfield Planning and Zoning Commission,
Yep.
similar to section 3.30.8.
Yep.
And then that the apartment building use should be changed to a special permit instead.
Also on page 112, I think there was 8.124, item 2, where we wanted to provide parking as follows rather than the parking spaces per dwelling unit. So that is the third one,
Okay.
okay? And I think I mentioned the special permits for that Linda
All right,
had
the
recommended.
rewording. Yep.
I think we ought to do that and vote on the motion
Anybody else?
with those amendments.
Yeah, if I could,
Go
please.
ahead.
I just want to say that I agree with Ken, that we ought to move this along, and with the changes we made, knowing in our own mind that we're going through all the regulations in town anyway, and there's going to be changes made to this right along. So if we can get this done so these folks can go ahead and do their planning, then that would be the thing to do, in my opinion. And then when we want to go back through it all, as we are with the workshops we're having, then we can go through it all and make sure that it's just what we want, rather than what we're trying to do to make sure these folks have a chance. Thank you.
Frank?
I agree with my 2 colleagues here. I think we should move forward, and I think this will be something that we can use as it goes forward for the other parts of Thompsonville as we do our zoning, whether it's going to be a template or at least it's something that we don't have now, and we can all learn from this, but we need to start. We need to turn the page. So I agree with Commissioner Alinsky and my colleague here as well to my left.
Joe?
I agree. Let's move along and get this rolling. Everybody's on board, I think, so.
Vinnie? Yeah.
We'll move on. I'm just so,
It's okay.
skip me right now. This crazy what's going on over here.
It's okay. Walter? You're all set? Christian? John?
What are the changes?
Exactly.
We've been talking for an hour about changes, and I'm still.
Do you have,
Yes, yes.
She has a list. She has a
Yes,
list.
I have
Okay.
a list. Let me type it out for you. That
What,
way
he's ready to
it's
vote on what? Well, I was going to ask you, what are the changes? You tell me.
I just
Can you
wanna
tell me what they
say-
all are right now? You probably
When
can't.
you make your motion, just please don't forget to reference the POCD chapters in the staff report, and that there should be an effective date of December 9th, which is after the appeal period.
The motion
Go through the first one.
as written does not reference the POCD.
The paragraph above planning departments, that's your decision to make that reference on.
Okay. And
So, well, she's trying to type, oh, I'm sorry. I think-
Multitasking.
she's got the changes?
Stand by.
Oh, I was going to read the first one while she was
Okay.
doing this.
What's the first one? Because our Mr. Secretary's got to read them.
Stand by, please.
So if you go to table 8.121, which is on page 105, lot and bulk requirements, their footnote shall now read, building height shall be measured from top of curb to the highest point on the building, excluding an elevator housing, a mechanical housing, a roof stairway entrance, a ventilating fan, a skylight, a steeple, a chimney, a smokestack, a firewall, a parapet wall, a flagpole, or similar device not structurally essential to the building,
So-
as determined by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we're taking out any reference to North River Street, is basically what the ultimate change is. Yes.
For only.
We're only talking about TD4 tonight.
I'm typing it so John can read it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get that?
You're going to remove North River Street.
think-
The reference to North River Street.
Yeah, she's typing it out,
So
so
you
I'm
can
trying
read
to
it.
read it as she's typing it.
Okay.
Okay, I finished.
Okay. And so number 2, on table 8.122, apartment developments greater than 5 units will be a special use permit. Okay. Table 8.122, use table for Thompsonville districts,
Okay,
called
apartment-
page 108.
Yep.
At the bottom of the page, apartment developments greater than 5 units will be a special use permit. Okay? And number 3, under section 8.124, parking requirements, we're just going to modify the wording. So number 2, it says mixed-use residential buildings or residential buildings with 5 or more dwelling units shall provide parking as follows. So we're going to eliminate the wording after the first sentence says 5 or more dwelling units. And we'll just say shall provide parking as follows, and it's 1 parking space for a studio, 1 bedroom, and 2 parking spaces for a 2-bedroom, and then it goes on to the other uses. And Georgie's going to bring that over to John so he can read it.
Sorry, John.
How about
She is
the
fast.
finding? Yeah, no, that's, what about the finding?
That is in the staff report on the last paragraph. Right here, this paragraph is your POCD finding, and that's your effective date on the bottom.
No, we're just going to do that later.
So we've closed the public hearing.
I just want to mention in the POCD finding, I referenced specific pages from the previous POCD. After I referenced those pages, I just kept reading, and fun fact, Thompsonville is scattered throughout the older POCD. Those pages are just the pages that have the most information about Thompsonville, but fortunately, our new POCD is specific to Chapter 10, so you're covered there.
Just say chapter 10.
The finding is going to be read after the motion.
With the finding of the new state year. So motion to approve with the effective date of, with the finding from the POCD on Chapter 10,
The effective date is going to be
December 9th.
December 9th.
Yep, after the appeal period has ended.
Okay. Yep. All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve public hearing number 3108ZA, application of Honeycomb Real Estate Partners and Grava Properties to amend portions of Section 8.120 Thompsonville District as it relates to the TD zones with the effective date of December 9th, 2024, and with the finding that the PZC must make a finding that the proposed text changes are in line with the town's POCD, and when making the motion for approval, it must also state the time and date, which is December 9th. Per the effect, Chapter 10 is in the 2023-2033 POCD, talks about Thompsonville and the need for change. Thompsonville is also measured in the older version on pages 23, 33, and 34, and 57. And the following amendments will be incorporated into this motion. Number one, add, as determined by the Planning and Zoning Commission, after the building height footnote below the use table, apartment buildings greater than 5 units shall be special use permit instead of on a site plan review. And Section 3, 8.124, rewording of the parking section to say, instead of mixed-use residential buildings or residential building with 5 or more dwelling units shall provide parking as follows.
Second.
Merle, any further discussion? Roll call?
Linda DeGray,
4.
Frank Alamo,
4.
Kenneth Talinsky,
4.
Vincent Grillo,
4.
Joseph Muley,
4.
Terrence Lynch,
4.
and John Petronella is 4.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm excited to see something going on down here, and hopefully this will be a great addition to our area. Thank you. I can't wait.
Congratulations, we'll see you back.
All right. Everybody okay? Need a minute? Okay. All right. Moving on to authorization for administrative approval. We don't have any at this
Nope,
time, do we?
we don't have anything.
Okay. Director of Planning report.
To my knowledge, my director does not have anything to report.
Okay. All right. I'll give her a second.
As her assistant, I'm pretty sure.
Need any? Do we?
Oh, do I have a director of planning report?
The flyer?
Well, we just got the Greater Future thing.
Yes, December 4th, there is a public charrette for the mall from 5 to 8 p.m.
That's exciting.
Yep.
Very exciting.
It'll be very similar to what the DPRAT did,
Yes.
but just for the mall.
Okay. No outside correspondence.
I actually do have something else.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, she
Oh.
started. Thank you. As you all recall, the sports complex, the soccer fields, they applied for a rezone
Oh, right.
of the 3.7 acre parcel to the southeast of their property, so they could fit extra soccer fields. They've gotten numerous extensions, and as of November 30th, their extension will be it will be expired. We did not hear from anybody from their team because we don't know who their team is. We don't even know who to call. So I called the previous land use attorney who was representing them, Carl Landolina. He is no longer representing them, and apparently Andrew Borgia is no longer involved. So we didn't really even know who to call. So as of now, that rezone is expired.
Okay. All right.
Are you talking about the land on Brainerd Road that they purchased?
They did.
I mean, we zoned it.
Well,
Yeah, we
I
changed.
have no idea whether they purchased.
I don't-
it or
I shouldn't
not,
have said purchase,
yeah,
but that
rezoned,
piece,
yes,
yeah, will be
yes,
rezoned.
That's what I'm talking
And
about.
they have to the end of the month? There's
They
no more
have-
meeting.
But you don't have a meeting to extend it, so.
Okay.
Okay. No outside correspondence at this time? Any commissioners' correspondence?
Yeah, Madam Chair?
Yes.
So I just wanted to, so I do apologize, we had our workshop a couple of weeks ago, so I want to apologize. I had to leave early to attend the Agricultural and Conservation Commission meeting. And I just wanted to give a heads up that that commission is working on proposals to send to us to consider for farm-friendly regulations, to improve our regulations to be more farm-friendly. So I just wanted to kind of relay that to everybody, that they will be sending us something soon.
More excitement.
Yeah, more to consider with the.
We got lots
the
of
zoning
things going on.
regulations. So, so I think that'll be exciting. And, and as far as, I will be catching up on, I am sad I missed the end of the meeting. I'm going to be catching up on it. And I know we have a workshop coming up soon. So
Yes,
I'm
on
gonna
the
try to-
12th.
On the 12th, yep. And I'll catch up on it. And I did make some notes previously. So if my notes weren't covered, I hope you guys will bear with me if I bring it up at the start of the workshop, just like transitioning. So I appreciate it.
We're gonna have more workshops.
Yeah.
To recover what we've covered. so-
Workshops to work on the workshops.
Right.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. So thanks.
Okay. All right. New business. Ms. Secretary. We've got CGS.
Yes, CGS 8-24, 10 North Maple Street, a conveyance of land. So-
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I handed out a better referral motion piece of paper for both of the motions tonight.
Yeah, I have it, I think.
Does anybody need one? I have more. Okay. Okay.
So we're good to just go through, it's a referral for a proposed conveyance of a portion of 10 North Maple Street to the town of Enfield. So I'd like to make a motion to send a positive referral to the town council to accept the donation of land from 10 North Maple Street LLC to the development of a town parking lot to serve the Hazardville community and the parking for the Hazardville Institute. Such a conveyance meets the town POCD in that it will help maintain the historic small-town identity of Hazardville.
Second.
Okay, this is just that property for the Hazard Institute that's been donated for the parking.
Right, they are donating the eastern portion of their property, which abuts the town of Enfield property, which will hopefully someday be able to put in a parking area for the Hazardville Institute for one, but Hazardville as a whole, so.
How big a piece of that property are they donating? I mean, there's a two-family house there, so.
It's
Just behind it?
Yeah, it's behind that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm just, the numbers.
All right,
I should know it. It's not very big.
not
It's
very big.
only like not even like a quarter of an acre. So.
all in favor of this?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and CGS 8-4?
Yes. Yes, CGS 8-24, 1 Knox Street, sale of land. This is a referral for the proposed conveyance of 1 Knox Street from the town of Enfield. Motion to send make a motion to send a positive referral to the town council to sell a property known as 1 Knox Street to help dispose of unnecessary town-owned property and to allow the rehabilitation of the property and be placed on the tax rolls. Such sale meets the POCD, and it will encourage and provide for diversity of housing types and tenure.
Second.
Okay, this here is up at the state line, and the house has been disrepair, and I believe it got knocked down. I don't know. I'm not going to swear to it because it's just been abandoned, and it's in a residential area, so that much I do know.
I believe it was on the troubled properties list for
Yeah.
many years, and
It was.
now we're going to sell it.
All right,
So,
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Calendar, other business.
What do I do with the
Okay.
calendar? Just that.
We got this nice calendar, and the only thing that was questionable was the November and December dates. Again, because of the holidays, November 6th and November 20th, and December 4th and December 18th, as opposed to the second, the November originally should be the 11th and the 27th, but the 27th happens to be Thanksgiving. That doesn't want to work for anybody. And then in December, it normally would have been the 11th and the 25th, and the 25th wouldn't work for anybody either, so.
It'd be
I-
quick.
Hey. So, yeah. Yeah, especially, so, okay, so, everybody had a chance to look at that. Any comments, concerns, questions? No?
Works for
No?
me.
All right, so we're gonna accept this. We don't need to vote on this. Yeah, so, all right, so, okay, moving on. Review of bylaws. I actually would like to go back to the original way that we had run the meeting, where the public hearings and new business would come before the rest, the commissioner's correspondence, the director of planning, and any of our business that really the applicants could care less about. And not that our business isn't important, because we are important. So I would take comments on this.
Well, because they get paid by the hour and we don't.
Right,
That's what it
Right,
boils,
I
that's
mean,
what it
they're-
boils down to.
right. They're paying us, basically, they're paying customers to us.
No,
They
but I'm
come
saying
to us.
the experts that they bring in are paid by the hour.
Right.
And if they're going to sit here for an hour to listen to us, then they get paid for it. And we're trying to save
So,
people money.
and moves it along, yes.
And then if they want to hear anything they missed,
There's,
watch it on TV.
or they can stay. So, yes, so,
I agree, get them all.
okay.
Yep.
I agree.
right.
Yep.
Yes,
So I would just like to keep the Director of Planning report where it is. So, because that's the most viewed time at home, because it's before everything else, and it's the most audience we have from the public. So Director of Planning report, that way there the public can hear what's going on.
It's still the same.
it is still the same.
Same number.
All right, just want to make sure, that's what I was checking.
All right,
they're both number 14.
yep.
Okay. So we revised the bylaws April 11th, 2024, with a unanimous vote.
And people get very uncomfortable sitting there listening to the commission do all of their business before the public hearings and the site plans. And so going
I'm
back.
just saying it's only a short time ago, we revised them with a unanimous vote.
We can redo it again, so. This is, I'm just asking people their opinions, and we can take a vote on it.
Yeah, I think my opinion is we ought to do that because there have been several times when I've been sitting here watching these poor people wait for us, and we're discussing some things that are important to us, but they could care less, you know?
Well-
So, you know, it's our business and all that. So I think, you know, as a courtesy to our customers, we ought to do them farther up front so we get all of that stuff out of the way, okay?
Well, I agree, but so, I'll just give you a reason. I think I said it when I proposed it, that people would see what we're doing, you know? That's my whole reason behind it, because it was like, what we're doing is all in the end, and there's nobody here, and there's nobody watching it on TV at that point. So it just, right. I just, so that was the reasoning, and you all voted for it.
Yeah, okay.
That's all right.
You all voted for it, so.
All right, anybody else have comment?
I think we have to wait till next month, according to bylaws.
To vote on it?
Yeah, it has to be proposed this month, and
So
gotta
we
look at the
will-
bylaws.
That's true. All right, so,
When you're gonna change the bylaws, you should look at them.
all right. All I'm doing is changing the order of business. That was all I was doing.
I know, but.
You're right, you're right. I said you were right.
I know,
Frank,
but,
okay?
I mean,
So
you're making,
we're
it's like
moving
you're
on.
shooting from the hip.
We're just gonna move on. All right, now, applications to be.
Madam Chair, I just want to make sure there's no proposed changes on
Nope.
the sequence, the order of business? Okay, so then we'll put them on for next meeting for
For a vote.
vote.
Okay, applications to be received?
Madam Chair, we have 4 applications being received. One came in after the stamping of the agenda, and if you'd like, I can just go through them really quickly for you. SPR 1943, 3 Palumba Drive. This is an application for a modification of SPR 1924 for an addition onto the rear of the building. Thomas Adamczyk, applicant owner, map 57, lot 320, BR zone. Item B, SPR 1944, 525 Enfield Street. This is an application for a site plan modification to SPR 1929, 515, 525, and 543 Enfield Street. 525 Enfield Street LLC, applicant owner, Dana Steele, applicant representative, map 33, lots 263 through 267, BG zone / Enfield Street design overlay. That's the Artioli Dodge site. Item C, PH 3109, 555 Taylor Road, application for a special use permit for a new pylon sign. Sam Scrivener, applicant, Mullen Road LLC owner, map 99, lot 11, I-1 zone. Item D, SPR 1945, 395 Enfield Street, application for a site plan modification for Dairy Queen. Michael Cassetta, applicant, RMP LLC owner, map 33, lot 233, BL zone, Enfield Design Overlay District. Thank you.
No, I know.
Told you, fast.
Do you do those commercials? Okay, opportunities, unresolved issues, we don't have any, and I will accept a motion to go into an executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All right, thank you. I can't make sure.
No, yeah. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we refer to the town attorney the excavation violation for on Jarmark property of Grant Road. Again, make that referral to the attorney to take action.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I will entertain a motion on forwarding a referral, thank you. I can't even talk to, I just.
It's getting late.
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to make a referral to the town attorney for violations at Yankee Castings, 243 Shaker Road.
Second.
Okay, all,
Well, you can give it to,
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Also entertain a.
Walter?
Motion to adjourn.
all in favor, David.
10:25 p.m.